wildfires in natural areas like forests and grasslands. For a wildfire to occur, all it takes is one little spark that can snowball into an ecosystem-destroying disaster. This little spark can be caused by natural phenomena like lightning strikes and volcanic eruptions. Unnatural causes of wildfires include things like unattended fires getting out of control, malfunctioning of equipment like aircraft, or improper disposal of things like cigarettes. There are other conditions and factors in an environment that contribute to the likelihood of wildfires and their severity. The biodiversity of vegetation in an environment can lead to more absorption of water, and the less dry the environment is, the less likely of fire. The climate is also a huge factor. Dry environments come from higher temperatures and less rainfall in a given area. These are perfect conditions for a wildfire to happen. Because of the huge impact climate has on the likelihood and severeness of wildfires, the effects of climate change are a big deal. Climate change has led to warmer average temperatures, and therefore a loss of moisture in the environment. Both of these climate change-related effects translate to longer and a more active fire season. However, the fire season has not always been like this. This graph shows the amount of land burned by Californian wildfires in thousands of square kilometers. There's a clear upward trend that as time goes on, more land is being burned by wildfires, in addition to the fire season being pushed back further into late fall and early winter months. Above the x-axis, there's a bar showing the primary drivers behind the fire activity during that time period. For the majority of human history, the primary driver of fire activity had been a natural phenomenon brought on by the climate. But once the Industrial Revolution hit and humanity started to burn more fossil fuels like coal, humans became the primary driver and fire activity started to climb. NASA's graph also has simulated future projections of fire activity depending on the amount of emissions. You would think that the more emissions produced, the higher the fire activity would be, but the graph says otherwise. This is because they factored in increased firefighting efforts due to population growth, so the so-called best-case scenario, emissions-wise, has the highest fire activity. However, the accuracy of these predictions all depend on human influence.
Over the course of hundreds of years, the amount of forest fires caused by people have increased dramatically. The main cause of these fires are cigarettes and unaccompanied bonfires. Around 85% of forest fires are caused by people. Studies have shown that people officially have caused more forest fires than natural phenomena such as lightning and volcanic eruptions. Driving to work is difficult when there are a lot of landslides or mudslides everywhere. Landslides and mudslides occur by forest fires causing a change in vegetation. Landslides or mudslides block roads in California, making people have difficulty in going to other places. Also, it blocks evacuation routes for emergencies and blocking emergency lines from getting to the places they are asked to be in. But not only do humans get affected, but also do organisms in forests. There are two main types of wildfire intensities. There are low-intensity fires and high-intensity fires. Low-intensity fires can benefit the ecosystem, but higher-intensity fires further affect California more than ever. This leads us into higher-intensity fires. High-intensity fires are classified to be fires that burn with high heat. The consequences of these fires are little to no regrowth of the tree canopy in major trees. Then the native plants that used to grow there are now gone because invasive plants are more likely to survive these conditions. The native animals would not have a food source now because they are used to eating the native plants that used to grow in the forest. This results in animals losing their homes and being forced to find new habitats. Also with this, roaming species become isolated in small areas, making it hard to reproduce and hunt. The runoff contains ash and debris from burning trees, making nearby lakes and streams contaminated. This damages water resources and disrupts life cycles and aquatic species. So even though light-intensity fires can be good for the environment, higher-intensity fires are very damaging to them. Well, to begin, what is deforestation? Well, deforestation is the purposeful clearing of forested land. Mainly in Brazil, the clearing of trees is for the use of fossil fuels in agriculture, but the consequences of deforestation are high temperatures. Removing trees can cause the forest floor to dry out and the ground surface to heat up. The tree holds CO2 in their trunks, roots, branches, and leaves. Removing these gases are released into the atmosphere and the earth absorbs that heat, making the earth heat up.
A perfect solution to any problem is very hard to find. To find a solution, you need to look at the things that are causing the problem and stop or slow those things down. The most discussed solutions to habitat destruction from forest fires are prescribed fires, and some smaller solutions are using less fossil fuels. They can control the amount of invasive species, and lastly, helping the animals whose habitats were threatened. Prescribed fires have many pros and cons, but it is one of the most known solutions to burn the excess of plants in an area that may lead to a huge fire during fire season. Prescribed fires are usually started by private groups like NGOs or tribal, state, and federal officials to help maintain an area. They are planned out beforehand, making sure to stay in predetermined areas, having the perfect weather conditions, having the correct equipment, and many other parameters to make sure that prescribed burns rarely turn into an uncontrolled fire. The pros of these fires are that they help lessen the chances of a bigger fire, making an area cleared out with the temporary risks that dangerous fires have. With cons, there are always possibilities that fires come out of control and can be a danger to everything around it. Prescribed fires have the same problems as normal fires, but can cause things like reduced air quality and water quality. Because of these risks and specific regulations needed for a safe prescribed fire, groups tend to work in smaller ways to help stop habitat destruction by forest fires, doing things like using less fossil fuels, eliminating the amount of invasive plants in that area, and lastly, taking care of the animals whose habitats were being threatened by fires, and all help significantly.